Alrighty, we'll try again. So Melissa and Elise, just send me a message again if this is working now, and if not, we'll just continue on and try it again at a later time.
Are we going?
Yeah, we're live.
All right. Okay, guys, we'll go back to the main track and go back to where we were going. Oh, we'll go this way.
We'll head that way. Yeah.
We'll go this way through the. This is an agave walk, I guess. You can see over here. You can see the agave salmianas. These are hybrids, but they look very similar to the real deal. There's just a few different colours mixed in because of the crossbreeding. And you can see here a flower shooting up, and that will just sort of pause now. We're going into the colder weather, and then in the spring when it warms up again, it'll keep going up, and you'll end up with a big flower spike like this. So these plants are agaves, are members of the asparagus family, and that's why they store their energy for a number of years. It takes about 10 years for these to flower. And then they put all their energy into shooting up this great big spike. And agaves are what they make tequila out of. So what happens is in Mexico, they come along and they chop that top out when it's about that long. And then they leave that for, I'm not sure if there's anybody from Mexico, you can send us a message and tell us. But I think they leave it for a while for the plant to swell in the base, in the heart. Then they come along, chop all the leaves off, and they roast and cook that and get the juice out of it, and that's what they make tequila out of. And over here we have your classic ponytail. A lot of people grow these in their fernery, but actually they love the sun outside, and there used to be forests of these in Mexico. From what I've read, there is no longer any forests in Mexico. They've been collected by people all over the world in days gone by, and there are no forests anymore. So there's a mixture of agaves, a few cacti through this trail. And then down the bottom here, we've got where we let the water run and it just soaks away.
Someone was asking about the saguaros as well, Dad, if we want to make our way that way as well.
Yeah, we can go down through here, I think, John.
Great.
Get to the saguaro.
Going cross country?
It's not really the right country for saguaros.
And why is that?
But we do have a big one. Not as big as they grow in the wild. So we've just now cut across into our North American section, and you've got some pharaoh cactus here, Mexican fence posts leaning dangerously, agave flower stalks out here with bulbils on them. Then here, we'll start off with this. So this is a baby saguaro, and you can see it's quite fat already and getting quite big. Now this patch of the garden here is deep sand, and this is where they do really well, and so do the Pachyserias pringleis. The Pachyserias pringleis are the fastest growers. These are very slow, but when we get a really good year here, we can get around 1 metre of growth in these young plants, between 0.5 metre and 1 metre. And that's an exceptional specimen there. That's only around 10 years old. From when it 10 years old from when it was planted out, it was about 5 years old when it was put in the garden. And then we've got a smaller one over here, and then John comes around to here. This is our big saguaro, I guess. It's probably 60 to 70 wide, and if I'm nearly 2 meters, that's probably close to 6 meters high now, I guess. But this plant's been here since 2004, and there are other plants in the garden that are as big as that one behind John there, that are exactly the same age but on the heavier soil. So they've hardly grown at all. And we'll go around and we'll have a look at the Pringlei. I think they call them cardon in Mexico. El cardon or something like that. Or the elephant cactus, because they get so big. Some Pharaoh cactus potsii here, or potasii, however you want to pronounce it. And we've got some little mammillarias. John might be able to zoom in here and show you some flowers. Here and the species back there. So the mammillarias do really well here. We have the temperature range that you can grow some of them out in the open garden without shade. And then just behind John, if he comes around this way, whoops, he's caught. One of the really nice agaves, I'm thinking truncata, but it's variety truncata. Parrii, variety truncata. So it's one of the only ones that grows up on a stem as it ages. But when it's at this stage here, it's an absolutely beautiful plant. And then over here is the elephant cactus. And you can see the pups on here. They've only been growing here for about 5 to 6 years, John.
Yeah.
And they're already this big. Now this plant is half the age of the saguaro that we were looking at a moment ago over the back. So you can see that they grow much quicker and they'll shoot pups much earlier in life. We haven't got any pups on our big saguaro yet. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll get to see some. Okay. Some big clumps of Mammillaria compressor longispina there. And they're just reaching that age where they'll implode sometimes. You get a bug or something gets in there and they rot, and you have to chop them up.
Will we weave back through to the orange trail and just show them the difference between the saguaros now and the Passacana Tushekii?
Yes. Good idea. Back through here, back into the wild.
Can you talk about this Myrtillo hybrid as well?
It's not a hybrid, it's a Myrtillo cactus. And I don't know which one it is. I'm not an expert on Myrtillos, but it's not Geometrans. It's one of the other ones that grows much thicker and taller. Geometrans is the one over here. Metrozins is the one over here. And you see it's a more of a rounded lower clump with less thick arms on it. But this one grows up with a very thick stem, and it just keeps getting quite a bit thicker, and it gets much higher. A very good plant for landscaping.
It's gorgeous.
Even for small pots, very hardy. And they also use both of these varieties for grafting because they have a lot of vigor.
So we're just going to go off the beaten track here.
The track we're coming on is being created by mountain goat people.
What is your temperature range? It is amazing how you can grow all of them outside unprotected. by Cactus Caffeine.
Um,
We do have some covered areas as well that we'll show the guys later.
yes, well, our temperature today is around, probably reached 17 degrees, and the coldest we get during the winter can be -10, but we haven't had, with climate change, I guess, or climate shift, whatever you want to call it, we get down to about -2, -3 on the coldest mornings, and it's only the odd morning of the year. When I'm in my 60s now, and when I was a child in this same area, we used to get very cold mornings of up to -12, and we'd get, 10, 20 in a row, and the channels and the little pools and ponds would all be frozen over. And sometimes they'd stay frozen through the whole day, and they'd get quite thick. That doesn't happen anymore at all in this area. So there's definitely been a bit of a shift in the climate. Our hottest days can be 45 plus, but our normal range is probably from around the 15 degrees during the day to 35 during the day.
Yeah.
That's our normal range, which would be maybe half our year or 3/4 of the year. And cacti grow at their best when they have water and a night temperature that's 10 to 12 degrees, and a day temperature around the 25 to 30, 32, something like that. And they just grow like crazy. So we've had really quite a warm autumn and quite a bit of rain, and you can see that all the plants are pumped up and growing really well.
And just convert that to Fahrenheit if you're in the States. All those temperatures are in Celsius.
Yes. So
someone just asked what kind of gloves we use. We use mostly welding gloves to handle cacti with big spikes.
I prefer to use my hands, but John likes to use gloves. Out to our right up there on the hill is the lookout that's been created. Look over our new area out here to the right. And then this is what we call the Orange Trail. And this was started in 2006, so 14 years ago. And this is mainly hybrids that I've bred from the first years from that Mama Pasacana that we were looking at, the big one with the big arms on it. So majority of the plants out here are hybrids from that plant. And I won't bore you with technical details because there'll be very few people who care about the technical details. But basically in those early days, I just had that big one Tosheki flowering. And I had a lot of what we call Labivias, which are these sized plants here. I know they've changed the names now to Echinopsis. Totally confusing to everybody. But I had a whole lot of these in different forms and different colors and that. And had some what we call mid-range large Labivias, which are fatter. I'll show you some of those in a moment. And they cross with that particular plant and maybe some of the other Trichocereus. And we got basically everything that's in this trail except for the odd big tall plant. And the Cereuses, of course, along the top over here, well, they're not from that plant. So up the back here, just to give you an example, is one of those hybrids. And you can see how big it is, multi-arms. And this plant has only been, excuse me.
This is common for Dad to get a sneezing fit.
So over here, John comes up, we'll show you a flower. And you can see the bees here. This is just opening. And you can see how excited the bees are because there'll be beautiful brand new pollen here. And they're going to fight about who gets it.
Brad Drysdale just commented, I've got some seeds crossed with JP3 heads, which is that one.
JP3 heads is down there.
Yeah. We'll show you in a minute, Brad.
Hello, Bradley.
Beautiful. Oh, Bjorn just tuned in. Bjorn from Germany.
Hello, Bjorn. Is that Bjorn from Backpacker Days?
Yeah.
Hi, mate. How are you? On the left here is a big patch of San Pedro. And when this was in flower, one of our probably our top rated videos was shot here. And it had it's heading towards 2 million views now. So
I think 6 million.
6 million.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It just keeps going and going. It was just maybe 1,000 to 2,000 flowers on this all over. It was just basically white. Okay, so I think we'll walk up through the middle, John.
Yep. And maybe in talking about the hybrids, we can show them what we're trying to do with crossbreeding. For example, you've got the Sansevieria to your right that's fallen over, which has a coloured flower. Serencia, sorry.
Sansevieria is a different thing altogether.
Well, that's why you're here.
Another one here. See,
yeah.
We were talking about the roots before. You can see how shallow the roots are. For a plant this size with shallow roots, and then you get a lot of rain and the weight is too much on the top and it leans a bit and they go down. So what I suggest to people to do is what we're in the process of doing is putting some big rocks around them. I had big rocks around the one over here, I thought big enough, but the plant got so heavy and leaned in that direction and went over. You can see where it was sitting on its back, but the weight was forward, must have been forward, and it went over the other way. So there'll be a lot of cutting here and a few plants to go out in the new garden.
Bjorn says hi, and we've got Isabel Els from Portugal tuning in.
Hi, Isabel.
And
so, when you look around here, you can see this is a hybrid from the same, all these plants that I'll just quickly point out, were from the same batch of seed. So this plant here, a lot of these have numbers, and they're our breeding numbers. So for instance, this is a monstrose Tashekii cross because it came from a Tashekii. It probably is a tricho like Psychonaut or one of those other ones that I have here that have been bred here. It's probably a cross with one of those, and so it's not quite as thick, but as it's aging now, we're seeing that it's really starting to thicken up, and it's going to be one that maybe will grow several more meters high. When we call something monstrose, what we're talking about is that you can see that it shifts. See how it stops the ribs here and it just misses some spines, and then it makes another rib, and then the other one curls around, and it's a general thing, and then away it goes growing again. And then if John comes around this side, you can see in here where it's just missing and dropping and starting ribs again. So this is one of the ones that we're doing a lot of breeding from because it has a very more open and big flower compared to what the Tashekiis normally do. And so we've done a lot of colour breeding with this one. And then you can see down here some of the small ones and how they got the thicker spikes on them from the Tashekii cross, but they have a much lower form at this stage. But we can't tell until they're probably another 10 years old what exactly they'll do size-wise. Behind me here you can see a plant that is a F1, which is first cross, and it came from Dawson's in Bendigo in Victoria, so about 2 hours from here. And this is a first cross from the plants of theirs that came from the wild in the mid-30s, I believe. And then these are crosses off those. So they're our F1s. And there's another F1 behind you here that fell over and lost its entire centre. But you can see that all the pups have shot now. And it's growing away again, going to be a big plant. And then, John, on this one here, you can see the form of the Tashekii. Once again, it's a Labivia cross with the Tashekii. And you can see that it's got the thickness as it's aging. It's getting very thick. But because they don't have a really woody centre spine, they will lay down on the ground. And when they go to this process of lying down, we'll find one that's in the right spot in a minute. And you'll see it's starting to lie down, and we'll show you one where sometimes it just snaps across here.
Someone was asking, what if it skips areoles in reference to the monster? And are they all from the one OP Tashekii?
Yeah, majority of them are. Not every single one. As I said, that one there we were just looking at isn't from that, and neither is the one over there. So we have about 10 Dawsons spaced around in here. But all the other plants have come from 2 seed pods. 1 seed pod in the it was the first one, and then the next year I got another seed pod, and they're other JPs. So you'll see that's a JP there from the first year, but there are smaller JPs which don't have numbers yet, which are over here. Only about this big, and some of them are bigger, but only about this big. So there's about 50 JPs at the moment of various types. And then over on the side over there, we can see some smaller ones that have been more slow growing. They're the same age as this, but they're a little slower growing. Basically because we had a drought here for 10 years, 12 years. And then in 2012, we had a good rain. And then after that, these plants were just planted around that time. We've had several years where it's been drought again, and then we've had a really good rain year in the last couple of years. We had a good wet winter last year, and a lot of the growth that you see here today, that happened last year. So for instance here, this one here has grown this much in the last month and a bit. And I know that because I took 2 pups off this one for growing on to make sure I never lose it, because it's something special. It's what we call an aurea, which means it has a yellowish tinge to it. It's not a proper variegate, because variegation is green and yellow, but the whole plant has a shine. So during certain time of the year, it'll go more yellow, and then other times of the year, the green will come back into it. But you can see down the bottom here where the yellow, as it ages, you can see the yellow just as a tinge through it. And then if John comes around this way on what you're looking at, you'll see a proper green all around here maybe.
And just a little bit more of that monstrose. It's a little bit easier to see here as well.
This is another plant, but it's not doing as much monstrose as what the JP24 does. And this here is what we call Jim's Monster. So it's one out of all these 50. That's, to give you an idea, that's how it's really thick. It's always been really thick and a big plant and growing vigorously. And so, and it sets seed pretty well. And now it's got pups. These pups only came this year, and you can see how big they are already. And that's just in 6 months of growing.
And Grant Nico, what's your favourite plant to grow, Jim and John?
I like the Trichocereus, but I like all cacti. I don't really have favourites. if you turn around to the back there, you know, you can see an exceptional Trichocereus chilensis, they call them. And the spines on that and that plant is probably as good a specimen as you'll get anywhere. I guess if I come over, you'll be able to get an idea of the height of this. You know, it's getting quite big and tall now. They're noted for these short, really, or shortish, really strong central spines. And then they spread out like spider legs, I guess. But that's the feature of a Trichocereus chilensis. There's a lot of dispute about the naming of these things. I don't get into that, I just grow them. And we try to be as accurate as we can with names, but there's so much interbreeding taking place in different parts of the world that it's really hard to define what exactly is what. So for Bradley, this is the three-headed one.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Once again, a really nice, big, thick body. Is that a little bit of variegation on this side, Dad?
Whereabouts?
Just up the top here.
Maybe could be any number of things. I know some of the plants, they'll go a little yellowish from the extreme heat that we've been having in the last couple of years, and they do strange things. So these are the JPs that we've been talking about, and these are the first big ones.
The sound is evidently quite a long way behind the video. Thanks for that, Cotty. Thanks for letting us know. Cotty's tuned in as well. She's been with us the whole time.
So this is Jim's freak, because this plant flowered when it was about that big and about that high. And it's a Toshekii cross from Mama Pasa, but it crossed with something completely different to the other JP. So this came as one of the freak plants in the bunch. So this is what all us Trichocereus seed growers look for. We grow 1,000 seeds to find one true freak. We've been fortunate here to have 3 or 4 freaks out of 1,000. And this plant this pup on here may be going to become a crest. We're not sure, but it may also just become 2 heads. So only time will tell, probably the next 6 months. And then you can see this plant over here, how big this is. And this just gets covered in a massive yellow flowers when it flowers. Red flowers over there. And what I'm always looking for when I'm breeding is plants with exceptional flowers, but also big, robust frames, because I've got a friend, Joylene, and Joylene may or may not be tuned in, but she, like me, likes big, strong plants. So
yeah, I can see the video lagging. I don't think there's much we can do about it, unfortunately. We'll just continue on. And
so they getting the sound later than the...
Yeah, the video's lagging behind the audio by the sounds of things.
Right. So over here is one of our young Dawsons. And you can see the plant is much behind Mama Pasa. This is an F1 from Dawson's that I planted several years later than the one over there. And it's really growing and taken off. And you can see up the top, it's got that furry, snowy, hairy sort of top coming to it. This plant hasn't flowered yet, so we're hoping that maybe this next year it'll flower. And then another one over here that's the same age as the Mama Pasa, but it's only been flowering for 2 or 3 years. And it's propped because we had really bad storms a couple of years ago, and we were just too scared to leave it because it's got so much weight, so we just left the props there. Now we're getting into some of the other JPs, or these don't even have numbers as yet. This is one I've named after John. Because he's so tall, I called it Big John. You can see the spikes are really robust on it, so that's coming from the Tushekii. And then a Labivia, it has an enormous, and then something really special, guys. We've got the horned, I didn't even know this. I don't know whether we'll be able to get a good shot, but the horned spider here, if you can come around this side, John, they'll be able to see the horns on it, if you can. We had one photographer came here for several years trying to catch these little guys with their horns. It took him about 4 years before he got here at the right time of the year to get the shot.
No, it's not going to focus on it.
We might have to get a shot of that and put it up
we'll get a
online
photo
with the camera. So these are the first of the JPs here that were planted out. So over here, where's the best shot here, John?
Yeah, if I get behind. Yeah, that's perfect.
This is JP1, and this is you can see that it's crossed probably with an Echinopsis or something. And what it's changed in the attribute of the plant is that they shoot a lot of pups around the base, just like the ordinary trichocereses do, where they shoot up from the bottom. And so you're getting these pups coming out of the base, whereas the plants we looked at over there, they have a stem that goes up and then they shoot out. So these plants do that to start off with, and then now in latter years, they're shooting from the base. And they've still got these very big spines, but a lot of these, the flowers are actually better than the wild species, the original species.
Well, I think we'd better wrap it up there, Dad. I think the audio and the video being out of sync is getting pretty long lags now. So thanks for everyone for tuning in and asking questions, and we hope you've enjoyed the cross. Hopefully this streamed through to Visit Victoria on the second try. We'll try and do this again soon. It's been really fun to be able to interact with the community, and just looking through the comments as we went, I just saw a lot of people even connecting with each other during the feed. So thanks for everyone who tuned in, and we look forward to having everyone back once we can open again.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya. Done?
Yep.